give voters a strong, loud, clear message that we expect not folks who will talk the talk. We need conservatives who will walk the walk. We need conservatives who will give us results as Texans. And that's why we need Scott Turner as Speaker of the Texas House. For those of you who haven't yet met Scott Turner, a lot of us will remember him from his days in the NFL. Unfortunately, no Texas team was smart enough to bring Scott Turner on. In fact, there were a lot of people who said that Scott Turner could never be in the NFL. They said he was too short and not strong enough and everything else. And you know what? Scott Turner spent more than a decade proving them wrong. And I would suggest to you that as Speaker of the House, Scott Turner is going to prove wrong those people who say conservatives can't govern, because Scott Turner, as Speaker of the House, is going to govern. Ladies and gentlemen, he's a businessman from Collin County. He's one of the strongest conservatives in the Texas House of Representatives. Please join me in welcoming the next Speaker of the House, Scott Turner. Hey. Can everybody hear me?
Yeah.
Well, can you hear me now?
I can hear you fine.
Okay, we'll work on it, okay? Is there somewhere else you can put the speaker?
Put the microphone right in here.
Y'all wait 1 second.
There you go. Lift it up on somebody's shoulder there.
Hey. Can y'all hear?
Yeah.
Can everybody hear now? Can you hear now?
Yeah.
Wonderful. Well, I am Mr. and I'm so glad to have all of you. This is so humbling to me to see all of you here. I'm so humbled to see everybody. What? Okay, can you hear me now? Well, I was saying I'm so humbled to have you here. So thank you, and I want to say thank you to all of my Republican colleagues that are here, standing over here in the corner, my friends over here, and everybody, all my other colleagues that are here, and my wife, Robin, is here. Robin, wave your hand. And Solomon, my son, is here. Where's Solomon? Solomon, my 13-year-old, is right here behind me. Well, what I wanted to do throughout yesterday and today, a lot of people came to me and they said, well, we don't know anything about you. We don't know who you are. Tell us your story. And so I thought today would be a great time to tell you my story. And I think it's very important that you know the people that you support. You kind of see the culmination of their life. You see the mountaintop of their life, the harvest of their life, but you don't know what kind of seed has been sown. You don't know what kind of road has been traversed in someone's life. And so I want to take you to give you the history, tell you where I think we are now, and then give you my heart of what I see Texas for the future. Is that all right? Yeah. Okay, can y'all hear me now? Yeah. All right, so I grew up in Richardson, Texas. Anybody ever heard of Richardson before? Yeah. And my mother and father, Essie Turner and Eric Turner. My mom's name is Essie, E-S-S-I-E. Anybody know anybody named Essie? Yeah, that's my mama's name, Essie Dean. And her twin's name is Leslie Dean. And I asked my grandmother one time before she passed away, I said, Granny, where did you get those names? And she said, I got them out of the newspaper. So anyway, very original family. But my mother and father, very hard-working people. Never went to college, just worked very hard. But one in particular day, I came home from school. I was 10 years old. And I was standing on the threshold of the front door with my mother on one side of the front door, and my father was on the other side of the front door. And I said, this is very particular, very peculiar. Something's going on here. Something's wrong here. Right before my eyes, I saw the fragmentation, if you will, the tearing away of my family. And for me, a lot of people say, well, that's commonplace in America. But it was traumatic for me because I love my mother and I love my father. But it was at that moment that the Lord dropped a dream, if you will, in my heart. And I told my mom, I said, one day, I'm going to play in the National Football League and I'm going to take care of you. I was a 10-year-old kid and I felt just the hand of God and the presence of God in my life. I didn't know how to articulate it at that time. And my mom said, you can do it. And my dad said, you can do it. And then our family was ripped, never to be the same from that day forward. Well, fast forward. I left my mom's house when I was 13 because it was real hard on my mother to take care of my sister and me. And being a big boy, I said, I want to relieve the burden on my mother. And it's hard for a son to leave his mother's house. And some of you may have been there before. So I left my mom and went to go live with my father. And I went to J.J. Pierce High School. Anybody heard of J.J. Pierce before? Yeah, we got some graduates and tears here. And so during high school, I did very well in school because I realized that education was going to be the way that I made it. Yes, I was gifted, athletically, talented, but I knew my feet would only carry me so far, but my character and my mind would take me further. And so one day my father came and he got me from football practice. And I said, well, this is very unusual because my father worked 2 jobs at the time. Mrs. Baird's Bread, he's been there for 35 years, and we had a janitorial business. Yes, we were janitors. We cleaned toilets late at night, daycare centers, and banks. But he showed up at practice this one day, and I said, well, Daddy, what are you doing here? And he said, well, I came to take you to work. Well, we didn't clean buildings until 10 o'clock at night, and this was like 4 o'clock. I said, well, I don't have a job. He said, well, you do now. And he took me to Spring Creek Barbecue. Anybody heard of Spring Creek Barbecue? And so we went to Spring Creek, and we walked in the back door, and the manager handed me a robe, the kind you can get wet and throw away, and he gave my father one. He said, welcome to Spring Creek Barbecue. You are a new dishwasher. And I was like, great, now I'm a dishwasher and a janitor. This is wonderful. And so I looked at that man and said, man, do you know who I am? My name is Scott Turner, the starting running back for J.J. Pierce High School, number 42, the guy that scores all the touchdowns. He said, son, shut up and put this robe on. And so I didn't know I didn't have very much humility at the time, but that was soon to change. And so I began, my father and I, he taught me, you have to have a system by which you wash dishes. You have to have a strategy by which you wash dishes, plates, pots, pans, silverware, and glasses. And so he did it, and he showed me, and he left. How many ever worked in a restaurant before? Okay, y'all gonna feel this in a minute. And so my father left, and it was my turn. And everybody in Richardson, Texas came to Spring Creek Barbecue at 6:30. Everybody got up and left at one time at 7:30. And I began to panic. I couldn't keep up. I wanted to quit. I wanted to give in because I couldn't do it. And they were ridiculing me, saying, man, you can't even wash dishes. What kind of football player are you? So I threw off the robe and I went to the phone and called my father. And I said, Daddy, come get me. I said, I don't want to do this. I'm about to quit. This is crazy. I want to play football. And my father said, you'll never quit now. You will never quit, never, ever. And he hung the phone up in my face. And this is back when the phone was on the wall. Y'all remember that? And I'm looking on the phone. I said, I know he doesn't hang up in my face. But he did. But I'm glad he did. Because from that day forward, I was 15. I'm 42 now. I never quit anything in my life. And I want to tell you all today that you hear from me, I'm not a quitter. And a lot of people say, well, America is lost. America can never be saved. Well, let me tell you something. I stand before you and say, I believe America can continue to be great. How about you? We just cannot quit. And so I left high school. I went to the University of Illinois. I went on a football scholarship and an academic scholarship. By the way, children do good in school. You hear me? Somebody say thank you to the next generation of leaders. Just a round of applause. And so while in Illinois, the first 3 years I was there, I was on scholarship. I couldn't even get on the football field. How many like football? Raise your hand. How many like the Cowboys? Raise your hand. How many like the Redskins? Raise your hand. Oh, okay, we got a couple. Well, anyway, I'm there. I can't even get on the field. They said, well, Scott, we just can't find a position for you. We know you're the fastest player on the team. We know you have great skills, but we can't find a place for you. And then I broke my jaw my 3rd year in college. How many know my dream was fading away, seemingly? But I was running track at the same time. And I was doing well in track, All-American, Big Ten, whatever. But track was not the ticket. Football was the ticket. That's why I was there to study, to learn, and to play. Well, my senior year, I won the job on the football team, and I was a starter, and I played the whole year. And the NFL Combine came. Anybody saw the NFL draft recently? Well, the NFL Combine came, and everybody wants to go to the NFL Combine. If you have a dream to go to the NFL, you want to get invited. There's a little stat for you. 1 million players in NCAA. 300 players get invited to the Combine. Well, I would come home every day after practice and look at my mailbox. Boom, no invitation. Come home another day, go to class, come home and look. Man, no invitation, 2 weeks. No invitation. Have you ever been looking for something and it never came? Let me see a show of hands. Expecting somebody and they never showed up. Well, they said, well, Scott, your chances are over. Your invitation never came in the mail. If you don't go to the Combine, you don't go to the NFL. Well, while everybody else went to the Combine, I went to class. And when I came home from class, I didn't look in the mailbox anymore. I went to Memorial Stadium, 14 degrees in February in Champaign, Illinois. I put my workout clothes and jumped in my car and went to that stadium, and I started running stadium steps. 3-tier stadium that sat 88,000 people all by myself. And people say, you're crazy. Why are you running these steps? Why are you working out this way? Why don't you just go to the Olympics? Why are you trying to go to the NFL? The Combine is in Indianapolis. This is Champaign. They don't want you. You didn't get invited. There's no way you can go. And so I didn't listen to what the people said. I didn't listen to the naysayers said. I didn't listen to what the coaches said. I listened to that 10-year-old boy who had a dream dropped in his heart. And I started running those steps all the way to the top and all the way to the bottom, up and down and over and over and over again. One time I slipped and I fell and I rolled down the last tier, head bruised and cut up, body beaten. Has anybody ever felt beat up before for chasing your dream or doing what you know is right or fulfilling the vision? Well, as soon as I hit the ground, boom, I got back up and kept on going. Why? Because I had a dream and I had a vision. Sometimes the conservative movement can feel as if it's been beat up. Can I get a witness from anybody?
Amen.
But I want to let y'all know we got to keep on running. We got to keep on stepping. We got to hit the steps. No matter what anybody else says, we will be victorious. And so here I am. I'm running and my agent calls. He said, hey man, 22 teams are coming to the University of Illinois. They want to see you run. They want to see you work out. I'm just 5'10". My colleagues will say I'm not that tall, but I'm 5'10". I really am, right? And I was 172 pounds. And 22 teams came to to Illinois. And they said, we want you to run a 40-yard dash. Anybody ever heard of that before? That's kind of a litmus test in the NFL to see how fast you are. Well, when my turn came to run, they didn't even remember my name. How many know I felt real obscure at that time? But when I got on the starting line and I looked to the finish line, I didn't see 22 men. I saw 22 stopwatches. And I said, I'm going to get from here to there as fast as I can. I took off, boom, and I was done. And they looked at the watch. And they said, whoa. They said, man, where have you been? And I said, I looked in the mailbox for my invitation, but you never sent it. Well, my time was a 4:24. And for those that don't know anything about the 40-yard dash, that's smoking. That's fast. And so when I ran that time, and I want you to follow me, I was 23 years old. How old was I when I told my mom I was going to the NFL?
10.
From 10 to 23 is how many years?
13.
13 years of preparation for 4 seconds. Changed my life. 13 years of not throwing in the towel, of persevering, of saying yes when everyone else said no for 4 seconds. And I'm standing before you today. Many of you may be expecting something and it hadn't showed up yet. Many of you may be facing a Memorial Stadium type situation in your own life where it seems insurmountable. It may be your family. It may be your marriage. It may be your finances. It may be the country. It may be your children. Whatever it is. But I want to encourage you because I'm a pastor at heart. I want to encourage you. Put your fighting clothes on. Get off the couch of depression. Get out of that pit of despair. Put your feet on the ground and get to stepping because I promise you, the phone will ring, the opportunity will come as it did mine. Can I get a witness from anybody? Well, I went upstairs and all the coaches and secretaries, they were so excited, except one coach came out of his office. He said, what is all this racket? What is all this hollering? What is all this yelling? He said, Turner, you'll never go to the NFL. I said, Coach, I ran a fast time. He said, so what? You won't make it. And I looked at him. I said, Coach, with all due respect, my faith is not in you. My faith is in God. And I said, number two, I told my mama I was going to the NFL. I'm going. You tell your mama something, you better keep your word. You hear me? Well, I got drafted April 21st, 1995. And spent 9 years in the NFL. Washington, San Diego, Denver. And I worked with a man there while I was playing. I interned with Congressman Duncan Hunter, who was the chairman of the Armed Services Committee at the time, Republican chairman. And I went to Washington a lot, Codell tours, the district office, and I saw what true statesmanship looked like in Duncan Hunter. And I also saw what a lack of godly humility leadership looked like in our country. And so when my wife and I retired from the NFL and I came back to Dallas, my wife looked at me, because people have been praying for me and encouraging me to consider running for office. And my wife said, God has been very gracious to us, giving us a wonderful platform and background. But what are we going to do with it? We see what's going on in America. We see what's going on in our country. The moral fiber, the very virtue and principles that we stand on are being attacked every single day. So what are we going to do? We're going to talk about it, or we're going to do something about it, because the platform that God has given you is not just for you, but for people, for others. And so we got in, and we ran, and we won. And so that's where we are now. Well, Texas today is in a great spot. Best place to live and work. Number one in job creation. Number one in energy exports. Number one over the last decade. We've created more jobs than the entire state combined. But my question is that good enough? My question is, what about educating our children? Taking children out of school districts that are underserving them. 300,000 kids with the mental capacity to change the world. Other little Scotty Turners who all they need is to be shown that beyond these walls, there's a great opportunity out there for you. What about right on crime, juvenile justice? What about hardworking taxpayers like you getting tax relief? What about all our business people? Getting rid of the margins tax, the franchise tax that robs and convolutes business. What about those things? Well, you know what? Texas is great, but Texas is not as great as it could be. And as we go, so goes Texas. And as Texas goes, so goes America. As we go, so goes Texas. As Texas goes, so goes America. And in order for us to be the best we can be, then the chains of complacency and the shackles of status quo have got to be destroyed. Would you agree? The chains of complacency and the shackles of status quo have got to be destroyed. Look at Washington 10 years ago. They had the House, we had the Senate, and we had the White House. And what did we do monumental? Nothing. We have an opportunity in Texas today. We will not be. We are not Washington. This is Texas. Even though Washington and Obama and that administration hate Texas, I love Texas. How about you? We have to have leadership that is willing to stand up and do what's right because it is right. Leadership that leads with transparency and accountability. And leadership that says, I'm going to do this, and they do it. Good stewardships over taxpayer dollars. We have to balance the budget in Texas, and we do, but I'd rather have a fiscally responsible budget that we are good stewards over taxpayer money like yours. What about the next generation? That's why I'm here. Yes, I love you, and I want to be here to serve you, but one day I'm going to step off this dais and hand over the baton of leadership. And that baton of leadership is going to be handed to the next generation of leaders. And my goal is to make sure that they have a greater Texas than I have. That Texas is better off when I leave it than when I found it. That Texas, they are prepared to take this leadership and take it all the way right now in Texas. There's a changing of the guard going on in leadership. And the people are speaking. The people are showing us what they want in leadership. Now the question is, will we listen? I'm listening. That's why I'm standing up here before you today. You deserve great leadership. You deserve godly leadership, humility, and honor in Texas. All eyes in America are on Texas. Question is, what are we going to do with it? In my business, complacency will rob you. I'm not willing to see Texas be complacent and be robbed of doing monumental things in our future. God bless you. I really appreciate it.